friends and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be doing my August wrap-up where I will be talking about the books I read in August, and I will also shout out some of the TV shows and movies that I watched in August because I want to shout about them. I don't have any statistics planned or like fancy templates. We're just gonna do this very casually and very chatty. So in August I ended up reading 6 books. No, it was not 15 or 16 books or however many I had on my August TBR because of Tropical Readathon, but I'm still quite happy with the amount of books, I think. Should we do the books in like order of rating? Yeah, why not? Why not? I'm deciding now that the books I'll be talking about today, I will talk about them in the order that I rated them from lowest to highest, because why not? So let's start with the lowest rated book that I read in August. On 6th place in my August wrap-up we have The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which I gave 2.5 stars. I listened to this one as an audiobook, and as a huge disclaimer for this, the audiobook sucked. It was awful. For some reason the audio quality was awful. It was really bad. So I do believe that this might be a major factor. Like, it obviously affected my experience of the book. Second part, the reason why I gave it 2.5 stars, actually 2 stars if you round it down on Goodreads, is because I found this to be quite overhyped and underwhelming. I was bored. Like, this book is too hyped. I don't know. To be honest, I was not that invested in the story. I was partly confused with the characters and stuff. So yeah, I really did not pay that much attention. Once again, most likely because of the quality of the audiobook. Or the lack of quality, I should say. It was just underwhelming for me. If you don't know, The Great Gatsby is a classic. We're following the narrator Nick Carraway, and he has this fascination with his neighbor who is Mr. Gatsby. I do feel like this book should have delivered more to me despite the poor quality of the audiobook actually. So it should have captured me, it should have grabbed my attention, I should have been more interested, and I wasn't. Let me know if you think if I should give it another go and read it physically. Perhaps that would make me more invested. Because I've done that before, where I listened to a book as an audiobook, I felt very underwhelmed, and then I read the book physically and I loved it. So if you think this would be the case with The Great Gatsby for me, please let me know and I might look into getting a physical copy. I forgot to mention, I read The Great Gatsby as a punishment, so it was fitting that I didn't enjoy it actually. It was my punishment for my punishment prompts of my 2-year anniversary, yada yada yada. You can backtrack to my videos if you're interested. So I read that for Love Triangle in Tropical Readathon and also for classics. So that was the lowest rated book. We then have 3 books that were on 3 stars, and I just realized that this will be very weird because I do have a series on here that I've rated differently. So we're gonna see how this goes. Let's do it chronologically. The first physical book I read in August was actually, and finally, Gemina. Let's just take a minute to appreciate the fact that I finally, after 2 years of putting this chunker on my TBR, finally read it. You're now allowed to give your applause. And here's to all the haters, to everyone who doubted me, who thought that I would not read this in August, who laughed at me for saying that I would read it in August. Fair enough, considering that I've said that I would read it other months multiple times before, like, fair enough, but still, I freaking read this thing. Okay, I'm not gonna be that dramatic. This one I read for mixed media in the Tropical Readathon. It was also a punishment actually to read Gemina, so I read Gemina. Once again, I have it in my August TBR where I draw punishment prompts. One of the punishment prompts was to read Gemina, so I did. Easier said than done, right? This is the sequel to Illuminae. I read Illuminae about 2 years ago. It's a YA science fiction taking place in space. They are like on a spacecraft, and the story is told through mixed media, meaning like chat logs, documents, surveillance footage, random things, and I gave this one 3 stars. The reason is I loved Illuminae. I gave Illuminae 4 stars, and I should have read this book closer in time to when I read Illuminae. As I said, it's been more than 2 years, I think, since I read Illuminae, I had forgotten most of the events from that book. Even though this is not like a direct sequel, it is a sequel, but we're not following the same characters. We're on a different spacecraft, different things are happening, but the stories have the same villain, the stories are sort of connected. One of the characters does appear in this book from Illuminae. Even though they're not like back-to-back sequels, I would say, it's still... yeah, I should have read this closer in time. The thing is, I love the banter in these books. I think the like chat log conversations are hilarious and so much fun, and the characters have so much character, but I get bored by the sci-fi parts of this. And I'm not certain of why. I feel like I would be someone who would love sci-fi, but I perhaps have not found the type of sci-fi I enjoy yet. I get bored by it. I'm not interested. I want to get back to the characters and their banter. That's all I care about. I don't care about the specifics of the ships and their layout. I do like the AI aspect of this. Other sci-fi parts, I don't really care. And I'm not certain if it's the actual sci-fi aspect or if it's just how these authors, Amy and Jay, write those action scenes. It could be it as well. I still want to read the final book in the series. I'm gonna get it at some point, hopefully. I actually expected this one to be a 5-star. I remember that I put it on my 5-star predictions because I've heard that people who enjoyed Illuminae love this one even more. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for me, but I still enjoyed it. Next up, we have The Ivory Key by Akshaya Raman. I finally read another Illuminae book and I felt so happy about it. This is a young adult fantasy following 4 siblings. These siblings are like the heirs to the throne, their parents were the rulers of this country where they live, and now the oldest sister is the ruler, empress, whatever you should call it, and she and her siblings, the 4 of them, have all drifted apart throughout the years. Because of things going on in the nation, they need to work together again and reconnect. I actually really enjoyed this story. I like that it gets you straight into the action. It's very fast paced. We get right to it. Right from the first couple of chapters, we know what the story is gonna be about. We know who the main characters are. Let's do it. I like that part. I like when it's fast-paced and straight to the point. I really do. So basically she and her siblings are looking for the mysterious artifact called the Ivory Key. I do think this is gonna be a duology. This is also a debut novel, and I'm very excited actually to read the sequel to this, because I'm curious to see how the author has developed. Perhaps the writing has developed as well. The thing that was lacking for me was that I did enjoy the characters and the world, but I did feel like we were lacking a bit of world building and development within the characters. Like, I needed more substance to them, I needed a better foundation, and I feel like we didn't really get that. For example, with the magic system. We were told that magic was in everything, and we were given one example of how magic is used to make sure that you cannot what's the word? Basically falsify or make copies of coins or money. But then we didn't really learn anything else about how magic works. And I feel like this was a great world, and we understand that there is so much magic in it, and that is cool. But we just never really got the information about that, I feel like. I wanted a bit more substance. And it could be that it is a YA, so it doesn't really have the space to dive deeper into that, but it could also be the writing. So that's why I'm more excited about the sequel, because first of all the world will kind of have been established and the characters as well, but I feel like it's a chance to get to know the world and the characters a bit more, and perhaps the author's writing will be able to project and share more about the world and the characters as well. So I kind of felt like I were missing chunks of information when reading this one. Not because I didn't pay attention, but simply because it wasn't told. Final 3-star, and this will kind of make sense and kind of not, but the final 3-star I have is The New Hunger by Isaac Marion. This is the prequel to Warm Bodies. If you know Warm Bodies, you might do it because of the movie that was released about 8 years ago. Wow, it's that long. This is a prequel to that, so it takes place, I'm not certain how far ahead of Warm Bodies, but I would say possibly around 8 years? Could that be it? I'm gonna say 8 years. We might need to either subtract or add a couple of years. But somewhere around there, 8 years I would say. because we're following the main characters of Warm Bodies, but here, like 8 years ahead. I'm going with it being 8 years now. It doesn't actually specify. We're following R, the zombie, when he first woke up as a zombie. We're following Julie as she and her parents are running away and trying to find some place to live in this zombie apocalypse. We're also following Nora and the things she had to do to survive during this zombie apocalypse. And it's quite a short read, it's quite a quick read. It's interesting, it's very interesting. I will talk about Warm Bodies soon, because I actually did read it first, because it's the first book, like chronologically at least, in the way they were published. This book has a lot of commentary on like our society, because the thing with this zombie thing is that the zombie thing isn't the apocalypse. The zombie thing isn't what's destroying the world. The world was already destroyed. Our society was already fucked. The zombie thing is more like a symptom or an aftermath of society going to shits. Which I think is a really interesting take on this. And the people are aware, like they knew the world was bad. Like things were falling apart. So I actually tabbed it whenever I found something interesting to be said about the society. It kind of makes you think in a way. I only gave this 3 stars though, because it was not as fun or as exciting as the first book. In the first book we have a lot of humor, the characters have a lot of character, and we can see like the development of their relationships and stuff. This one takes place so far ahead, like, or back when they were younger. Obviously they cannot be the same people as they are 8 years later. Things will have changed, they will have changed. So this book wasn't as funny, like R, he doesn't really do that much, while in Warm Bodies he's hilarious. Julie's like 12 in this one, completely different person from the grown woman she is in Warm Bodies. Same with Nora, although Nora is still badass. Yeah, it doesn't have the same wit, charm, humor, personality as the first book had, but it still has a bunch of interesting reflections on our society. So I do feel like this is a book worth picking up if you have read Warm Bodies and enjoyed it, or if you just like zombie stories. This is a bit more gory and horror-ish, I would say. I think Warm Bodies is also categorized as horror, but it doesn't really feel like horror. This feels a tad bit more like horror. I'm very happy I finally read it. And the reason I read it is because I'm working on a Warm Bodies vlog, but I have still 2 more books I need to read for that vlog. My hope was to finish the entire series in August. Didn't happen. We'll see what happens in September. Let's talk about my 4-star reads, because I have 2 books that I gave 4 stars. Let's continue where we left off by talking about Warm Bodies, because this is the first book I read, and I gave it 4 stars. And this is actually a reread for me. I read it for the first time, I think, yeah, about 8 years ago when the movie was released. So I watched the movie, I really enjoyed the movie, so I picked up the book and read the book. So this is a reread for me, but I had not read it in like 8 or 7 years. And I was very interested to see if this book would like stay true to my expectations and my memories of it, I guess. And it did. I think this book is so freaking funny. R is a hilarious character. R is the zombie, if you don't know. He's this just philosophical bachelor. So R is great. There are so many heartfelt moments in this book as well. There's just so much warmth in the story, and I really appreciate that. If you don't know, this story actually follows R, who is a zombie, and Julie, who is a human, and they sort of meet accidentally while R is hunting, and he saves her, and they get to know each other. And they realize that the world is kind of changing, like the zombies are sort of changing. It's like a zombie retelling of Romeo and Juliet. It's just so warm, it's so sweet, and R is incredible. And I like this one a lot, and it was a treat to read it again, actually. I have once again tabbed this as well, mainly for funny parts, actually, and some heartfelt moments as well. So like the first line, I'm just gonna read the first line. It says, "I am dead, but it's not so bad. I've learned to live with it." Come on! And then, "I could almost pass for a living man in need of a vacation." Same R, same. I could also pass for a living man. It's so interesting to see how these zombies works and what they're thinking or not thinking. Once again, this book also have a lot of commentary on society and the things that got them to this point. I feel like this one has it a bit more, but this definitely have parts like that. I did enjoy the first half of the book more. I felt like it was a bit wittier, a bit more fun. The second half is basically just people running back and forth between the same places, which felt a bit odd. So it's a bit repetitive, a bit without direction, I would say. Solid book, I do recommend this. I feel like this is greatly underrated and more people should pick it up, and I think that many people would actually enjoy this one. So this is a recommendation for everyone. Now, the final book I read in August was My Mechanical Romance. I listened to this one as an audiobook and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, what is it about? We're following a girl who's changing schools, and she starts at this school where a lot of people are very ambitious, I would say, and studious. She gets sort of pushed by her teacher to join the robotics team. And in the robotics team we have a guy who is very ambitious. His dream is to go to MIT. He works very hard, he's very smart, he's the head of the robotics team, all of that. And she kind of finds, from being someone who doesn't really know what her hobbies are, what her passions are, her interests, she actually finds that she has quite a talent for engineering. So she joins this robotics team and learns a lot. And it's, at first with these characters, I found them all to be quite annoying. They were not very likable, especially not the guy. Yeah, they were pretty arrogant, some of them. So I did not really have an interest in them at all. But as the story continued and we got to know them and we could see their relationship develop and all of that, I started to get more attached, I started to like them more, I started to root for them individually and as a couple. And also just by the final few chapters of it, or the final hour of the audiobook, we had such great representation of women in STEM, and the book told us so clearly what representation truly does for people. And when we got to that part, I was this close to breaking apart, honestly, because as a woman in STEM myself, I love reading and hearing about women in STEM. There was this scene, basically someone just told them that, oh, it's so cool to see a girl do this because now I feel like I can do this. And that part just, whew, it got to me real bad. And because of that, because it actually captured the spirit of why representation matters, I gave it 4 stars. As I said, I did really get attached to the characters and their story, and I liked the way the book developed. So it just got better and better for me, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very sweet, cute YA romance contemporary, I would say. And those were the 6 books I read in August. I did start reading Box, and I also read about 50 pages, I think, in War and Peace. I needed to read Box for a book I regretted that I had bought, and I am actually enjoying that one. I'm not that far into it. I'm like 40 pages out of 500. But actually, I'm glad I picked it up. I'm glad I have started it. From the little bit I read, I actually am enjoying it, which is pretty cool. Regarding Warm Bodies, my punishment was to read 200 pages of it. I read about 50. My goal was to read 10 pages a day. I did that for like the first 5 days, actually. It went pretty well, and then I didn't do it anymore. So, not that much further ahead in War and Peace. I'm reading it extremely slowly. Perhaps I can pick it up again in like October or something. I want to say that having those 10 pages a day as a goal worked, because I did feel motivated by that. But the issue is that once I started to skip days because I was out or I didn't have time or I was not at home where my book was, that's when I lost it. But I'll give it another go in October, I think. Also, I forgot to mention again, I read this one for the Undead prompt in the Tropical Readathon because I was part of the mystery horror thriller team. I read this one for a apocalyptic book, and I read My Mechanical Romance for the Team Romance team book. I also wanted to take this opportunity to chat a bit about the TV shows and movies I've seen in August as well. I'm either reading or I'm watching shows, like it's hard to do both. But I feel like in August I managed to do both, which I'm happy with. First show I need to talk about is Never Have I Ever. I binged this within a week. I had never seen it before and I watched all 3 seasons in August. And it's incredible. We have, once again, amazing representation. We're following an Indian girl, Devi, and just her family and how she's going through some recent trauma with the loss of her dad. It has so much heart and so much warmth. The friendships is amazing. The romance is great. The family dynamics. the environments, like everything is so great. I love it a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. I've been crying to this show. I've been laughing to this show. It has all of the ups and downs I could ask for. It's a fairly quick watch. Each episode is about 30 minutes, I would say, and there are 10 episodes per season. I'm fairly certain I will rewatch this at some point within the next year, actually. I feel like this is just such a feel-good show. Yes, there are a couple of episodes that are quite stressful. I'm looking at you, episode 2 in season 2. That was stressful even for me. I love this show. It has definitely made it to like my top 5 shows of all time. Honestly, I have not ranked them, but I know it's up there. And I feel like it's been a while since a new or recent show actually made it to my top shows of all time. And also they included heat waves in the soundtrack in the second season. And like that scene with that song has really cemented itself as one of my top 3 songs of all time as well. I don't know what it is about heat waves by Glass Animals, but it's an incredible song. I love it a lot. It's just like the intro and the way they did it in the show with like the rain. Oh. I started watching Attack on Titan now in August. I've only seen 6 episodes so far, so please don't spoil me. Also, I'm watching this with my friend and we can only see this when we are at his place because he has the streaming service for it. I don't. I've seen 6 episodes. I already feel very invested in the story. It is great. I didn't really expect anything else other than greatness because I've heard only amazing things about it. I think I expected it to be a bit more gory because I feel like that's what I've seen about the show. I've seen the blood and like the violence and all of that. But it's not as gory as I expected it to be. All I can think about now is there's this one thing that happens in episode 5 of the first season and it wrecked me and I can't really trust anything that the show will give us from now on. I'm so excited to continue with this show actually. Unfortunately it would take me some time to get through it, but it's also quite a fun experience. Shout out to Attack on Titan for being such a good sport and like a really solid anime. It's super good. I watched Trainwreck Woodstock 99. It's like a 3-episode mini documentary about when they tried to create the Woodstock festival but in 1999 instead. And it is a total train wreck. Both like how it was arranged and how poorly arranged and managed it was, the entire festival, and the fact that people didn't think that, oh, perhaps if we're hosting a festival for young people in the 1990s, it won't be hippies and like peace, love and understanding. It will be hard rock and kicking and breaking things. No one thought of that. Like, who are the popular bands? It's not someone with their guitar strumming and humming. No, it's freaking Limp Bizkit and Red Hot Chili Peppers and Korn. Yeah, like that's super cool, but you won't have the same sort of festival to start with if you have that much of a different lineup. It just makes sense. And also like, you kind of get scared by men or testosterone or humans in herd and how much they can act like animals. It all just goes to shits, but it's also so amazing and hilarious in many ways because like people had the absolute worst experience during this. Like they were filthy, like no hygiene at all. It was too crowded, people got hit in the head and stuff, things got stolen, and still when they were asked if would you come back if this was hosted next year, everyone said yes, I would do this again. It's just a very interesting thing about us humans that we do live for the experience quite a bit. And yes, there are consequences, there is an aftermath, but like being there in the moment is such an impactful thing to you, so you are willing to go through everything again to experience that again. That's just very interesting to me. Highly recommend. It's once again a quick watch. 3 episodes, about 40 minutes each. Very solid. Expect naked people, I guess. What more did I watch? I've started watching Sandman. I watched 3 episodes so far. I really liked the first one. I like the vibes of it, the emo boy, the old house. And then they gave us the trailer for like the rest of the season and it felt very modern, colorful, very different vibes from that first episode. I watched a couple more episodes now. I feel like I'm still not fully into the story yet. It's in the works. I will continue with the series. It's interesting. I think I like it. I've also started the House of the Dragon. I don't know, like I'm not the biggest Game of Thrones fan, to be honest. Like I was very late with watching the show compared to everyone else. I remember that I really didn't like the first season actually, because I found it to be very slow, because it takes time, like there's a lot of world building to be made. And I feel like the first episode of the House of the Dragon reflected that, by also focusing a lot on world building, character establishment, all of that. Second episode I did not like at all, it was very slow. And third episode was definitely better, but I feel like it's not the same as the original one, because we're only following one family, one city. The thing with Game of Thrones that made it so great was that it was huge. We were following so many characters, so many kingdoms and queendoms across the world, like from the north to the deserts in the south, and it was so epic in that way. This one isn't. I haven't read the books, I cannot say anything about that. For me, like, it's obviously not the same, and it's a tad bit more boring, I would say. I will continue to keep up with it. It's nice to like have a show on Mondays that you can just put on. I watched the Where the Crawdads Sing movie. I actually really enjoyed that one. I was surprised. I had very low expectations because I enjoyed the book quite a bit, but I feel like they did a very good job of adapting the book. I think I watched it during one of those weeks when I was feeling pretty low, and it just, the main character Kaya was just so much more relatable to me because of that, because there's definitely a theme of being lonely. I just really related to that at the time and still sometimes do, so I thought it was a pretty good movie adaptation actually. But I think that's it. I've chatted about the books I read. I've also chatted about the things I watched because I wanted to share it, so if you've seen any of the things I've seen, please write me about it. I would love to chat about it actually. What do you think of me including more TV shows and movies in my wrap-ups in the future? Like just let me know. Or like other things I enjoy, like music. If there's a new album being released by an artist I really like. What would you think of me chatting about that? Please let me know. I really take all of your opinions into consideration, so please let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please take care and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye!
You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before.